What do you tell MAGA supporters who say they want anyone involved in Jeffrey Epstein's alleged crimes?
The Trump administration is committed to truth and to transparency. That's why the Attorney General and the FBI Director pledged at the President's direction to do an exhaustive review of all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and his death. There was material they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and it contained child pornography, which is not something that's appropriate.
So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
She was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. Pakistan nominated President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize in recognition of his decisive diplomatic intervention to prevent a nuclear war between India and Pakistan. The White House is aware of the shooting that took place today in Texas, and we are working with the appropriate federal agencies to get to the bottom of what happened.
Karoline, the DOJ and FBI have now concluded there was no Jeffrey Epstein client list. What do you tell MAGA supporters who say they want anyone involved in Jeffrey Epstein's alleged crimes to be held accountable?
This administration wants anyone who has ever committed a crime to be held accountable, and I would argue this administration has done more to lock up bad guys than certainly the previous administration. And the Trump administration is committed to truth and to transparency. That's why the Attorney General and the FBI Director pledged at the President's direction to do an exhaustive review of all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and his death. And they put out a memo in conclusion of that review. There was material they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and it contained child pornography, which is not something that's appropriate for public consumption. But they committed to an exhaustive investigation. That's what they did, and they provided the results of that. That's transparency.
Follow up on that,
Sure.
Caroline. Okay, so the FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars. They have an operation going on right now called Summer Heat, which has our murder rate trending in the lowest direction in United States history. Their emphasis on violent crime and locking up violent criminals has led to the arrest of 14,000 violent criminals. That's a 62% increase from the same time period last year. So this Attorney General and the FBI Director are committed to putting bad people behind bars where they belong. They promised an exhaustive review. That's what they did. For any further details, I would refer you to the Department of Justice. The Operation Midnight Hammer obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities, taking out this imminent national security threat, not just to the United States, but to the entire world. The president secured a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, ending the 12-day war. The president brokered a historic peace agreement between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Pakistan nominated President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize in recognition of his decisive diplomatic intervention to prevent a nuclear war between India and Pakistan. Blue-collar wage growth has seen its largest increase in nearly 60 years, and President Trump has defeated Joe Biden's inflation crisis with core inflation at the lowest level since March of 2021. And just about all of that has happened in the last 3 weeks, and I know you all know it because you've been very busy here covering it along with us. So with that, I will take your questions today as we kick off another very busy week here at the White House. We'll lead with our new media seat, Brian Glenn, who is, of course, very present in this briefing room. He's put in a lot of hours covering this president, so we're glad you finally have a seat today. Brian, go ahead.
It feels great to sit down. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I want to go back to the hurricane. You said that President Trump is scheduled to go to Texas later this week. Can you speculate on what day? and what he has plans.
Sure. The White House is currently arranging those travel plans. We hope that it will be later this week, likely on Friday, but of course we want to do it at the most appropriate time on the ground for state and local officials. We don't want to interrupt the recovery efforts, but we're planning tentatively for a Friday trip, and when that becomes final, we'll let all of you know, as we always do.
And you gave a little bit of reaction earlier, but the National Weather Service, the union, actually publicly stated they had an adequate staff on hand to forecast and predict the storm. You shared your thoughts earlier on how the way the left has really weaponized this to blame the deaths in Texas on Trump. Want to comment on that again?
Yeah, I just do think those comments are depraved and despicable, especially when so many Americans are mourning the loss of their children. The National Weather Service, as I said, did its job. Many experts, many meteorologists have said that. Many of you in the media, in all fairness, have said that as well. Unfortunately, not all. And many Democrat elected officials are trying to turn this into a political game, and it is not. This is a national tragedy, and the administration is treating it as such. We know the National Weather Service provided early and consistent warnings. They gave out timely flash flood alerts. There were record-breaking lead times in the lead up to this catastrophe. There is ongoing flood monitoring, and these offices were well staffed. In fact, one of the offices was actually overstaffed. They had more people than they need. So any claim to the contrary is completely false, and it's just sad that people are pushing these lies.
Can I just get one more?
Sure.
Kind of a little bit of breaking news. The Department of Homeland Security moving to end the TPS status on Honduran and Nicaraguan migrants.
Yes.
Any plans to adding additional countries that you could be targeting? Just a reaction.
Sure. Well, I won't get ahead of the Department of Homeland Security on additional countries, but as you pointed out, they did end temporary protective status for Nicaraguans and Hondurans in this country because TPS, temporary protective status, is temporary by definition. It is not meant to be a permanent path to residency or citizenship here in the United States of America. It was originally granted to Nicaraguans following a natural disaster in 1999. That doesn't sound very temporary to me, and as well as Hondurans in 1999 after the impact of Hurricane Mitch in 1998. And so this administration is doing what it promised to do, and if individuals from these countries want to come here, they have a legal pathway to do it, but temporary protective status was never meant to be permanent. The previous administration abused this status and this parole program, essentially treating it as such, and we're not going to tolerate that any further. Thank you, Brian. Megan.
Secretary Bessent said yesterday that countries will boomerang back to the April 2nd tariff level starting August 1st. Why did the president decide to have those tariffs not take effect Wednesday as originally scheduled? And then I was also wondering if you could share, obviously we saw the letters the president sent out on Japan and South Korea, but if any other major U.S. trading partners are getting letters today.
Sure, yes, I can confirm. In fact, I have those letters. If you could get me the folder with the letters in them, Liz, they're right in the previous office. I have the signed letters that went out to both South Korea and Japan today. And there will be approximately 12 other countries that will receive notifications and letters directly from the President of the United States. And weeks ago, I stood at this podium and I told all of you that the President was going to create tailor-made trade plans for each and every country on this planet. And that's what this administration continues to be focused on. The president will also sign an executive order today delaying the July 9th deadline to August 1st. So the reciprocal tariff rate or these new rates that will be provided in this correspondence to these foreign leaders will be going out the door within the next month, or deals will be made. And those countries continue to negotiate with the United States. We've seen a lot of positive developments in the right direction, but the administration, the president and his trade team want to cut the best deals for the American people and the American worker. That's what they're focused on. And in the effort of transparency, these letters will continue to be posted to Truth Social, so you can enjoy them yourself.